Jose Chille DeCastro goes crazy this week. Talks robots uprising, police takeovers, says that he prays that the president drops dead every night, and calls for the hanging of the Commerce Secretary. But wait, he's not done. Blames 9/11 on the Zionists and rants that the American government and all media must be purged of those of Jewish descent. Then wonders why his viewing numbers are so low. The angry vet released from jail while he appeals his recent trespassing conviction. Jeremiah Payne returns to YouTube to celebrate his return to Nashville. What has he been up to? Regan Benson rants multiple times and has court drama. Plus, how did MERB get caught up in the drama between Jonathan Frauditor Troll Hudon-Huneault and Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova? Tune in to find out. I'm your humble newsreader, Pants. You're in store for a wild ride this week as we look into this week's news on the Auditing Insanity podcast. Civil rights activist, failed Power Ranger, and diminutive YouTuber Jose Chille DeCastro addressed his fans on the pending robot uprising, elimination of brown-skinned Americans, and police takeover of local governments late Friday evening from his supposed self-driving minivan as he traveled to an unspecified location. DeCastro seemed bored as he was driving in the dark, wearing his once famous red-framed glasses, looking directly into the camera as he let the automated cruise control and driver's assistance functions on his van control his destiny. He started the broadcast with a lengthy talk about his belief that former police officers were taking part in an organized plan to take over local governments. The YouTuber assured his fans that the former police officers were the reason why it was so hard to get body cam footage from the police upon request. DeCastro then went into a weird rant that even if you are able to obtain body cam footage, often it's edited and things he thought were in it weren't in it when he received the footage. This, according to the YouTuber, included footage of Deborah Rogers being choked out and gurgling on camera that he assured his fans was there, but wasn't in the footage he received. The inventor of the jock sock followed this with a claim that his recent loss in court against the Las Vegas Metro Police Department was due to a wife of a cop being the jury foreman. He set forward the improbable idea that he was appealing the loss to the Ninth Circuit based on her presence in the role. He continued his rally against the police state with an attempt to get footage of an Arizona traffic ticket as an example of a pending police state. Repeating previous claims, DeCastro went through a laundry list of claims and grievances, including how he had no respect for anyone who wore a uniform or used a military ranking system. DeCastro then expanded his discussion into his beliefs that the former officers were also behind the growing implementation of so-called halo laws. Halo laws have been enacted in several states and require that the public stand a set distance away from an active crime scene or emergency scene. Rallying against the laws, DeCastro said that the public would soon be unable to witness police activities, as soon the police will use walls of officers to prevent us from seeing anything. DeCastro would then contend that the growing use of detention centers by the current presidential administration was designed to deport or eliminate all brown-skinned Americans. Then he signaled that those Americans were left would be rounded up into the detention centers, as their roles in the American workplace would be taken by robots. The YouTuber was enthused by reports that normal Americans were rising up against the use of flock cameras. He said that he had heard reports of people chopping down flock camera stations, and while he did not condone breaking the law, he could appreciate why those involved would act out. DeCastro's livestream would abruptly end soon after he was in the process of wrapping up, when he either prematurely ended the stream or lost signal as he was driving. The continuing legal war between YouTubers Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova and Jonathan Frauditor Troll Hudon-Huneault saw new activity this weekend as Cordova's attorney, Randall S. the Unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, made a new filing in the lawsuit, and Cordova released a video on Saturday addressing recent claims by consumer advocate Louis Rossmann. Starting with the filing, Friday's filing was of the final reply to Newman's motion to dismiss Hudon-Huneault's counterclaims in the lawsuit. Attorney Newman addressed the fact that Hudon-Huneault's counterclaims and his previous defenses offered in the case differ greatly. Late last year and months into the lawsuit, Hudon-Huneault, despite announcing that he had deliberately removed 1,700 videos from his YouTube channel and claiming that all footage was permanently lost, found an old live stream where he claimed that Cordova gave him a verbal, perpetual license to use his works. This, according to Hudon-Huneault, removed any DMCA claims Cordova may have against him. Hudon-Huneault's recent filings reflect this new claim, and the facts accompanying new filings reflect Hudon-Huneault's assurances that he has always believed that he had perpetual license to use Cordova's works. Attorney Newman pointed out that no mention of this supposed perpetual license was mentioned in defenses presented before the discovery of the livestream, nor in Hudon-Huneault's counter-DMCA notices, and that it was inappropriate to offer new arguments and evidence in a counterclaim. A March 3rd, 2026 motions hearing on the counterclaims had been previously canceled by Judge Virginia K. DeMarchi. The judge has stated that she will make her ruling based on the papers submitted by each side. Following the filing, Cordova addressed the recent interjection of consumer advocate Louis Rossmann into the lawsuit. Rossmann released a video early last week attacking the lawsuit, as it contains a 17 U.S. Code Section 1201 claim, which has already survived a motion to dismiss. Rossmann called on Cordova to drop the lawsuit, as if Cordova won, the victory would result in thousands of new lawsuits, as it would now be illegal to download videos off of YouTube to use in reaction videos, and those found guilty could face jail time. The consumer advocate was correct in stating that 17 U.S. Code Section 1201 contains a provision with a criminal element and does include a recommendation for jail time in certain cases for circumvention of technological measures used to protect copyrighted works. However, 17 U.S. Code Section 1201 has been in effect since 1998, with the anti-circumvention provisions taking effect in October of 2000. If Cordova wins his lawsuit against Hudon-Huneault, it would be reaffirming the law that has been in place for over 2 decades. An act of Congress would be needed to modify the law as it currently stands. Hudon-Huneault, a Canadian citizen, has not been charged with a crime in the United States. Rossmann would later recant comments he made in his first video about the fair use element of the lawsuit. He stated that he had not read or researched that aspect of the lawsuit and would not care about the lawsuit if not for the 17 U.S. Code Section 1201 claims. The day after recanting his fair use claims, Rossmann launched a campaign to have Attorney Newman disbarred in California and New York, based on negative comments he made in both public and private forums. Rossmann centered his claims on accusations that Newman allegedly encouraged a user on the ReallyCoolNews private Discord server to take his own life by using the directive "kill yourself" in a heated exchange with another user. Newman has contended that the directive is a substitute for telling someone to fuck off, and he, despite being heated, did not intend for the user to take his own life. In Saturday's video, Cordova revealed that Rossmann himself used the phrase several times in a recent email chain with an unspecified recipient. He called Rossmann hypocritical for claiming that Newman encouraged someone to end his own life when Rossmann used the same directive in heated exchanges in his own private email. Cordova assured the public that he had not and would not be seeking criminal charges against Hudon-Huneault under 17 U.S. Code Section 1201. He also scoffed at the idea that criminal charges would be made against anyone based on his lawsuit. The YouTuber then went into the fair use claims, noting that Hudon-Huneault had recently self-purged another 300 videos from his YouTube channel. He said that Hudon-Huneault had previously made thousands of dollars in revenue off of using his content and had established a market substitute for his content, as viewers could watch his videos on Hudon-Huneault's channel with minimal interruption. Cordova revealed that Attorney Newman was working on contingency, and both he and his attorney had made no money off of the lawsuit. He said that he had been living in poverty since becoming a YouTube influencer, and that Hudon-Huneault's actions have kept him from profiting off of his own works. Rossmann's promotion of Hudon-Huneault's GoFundMe campaign has brought in nearly $2,000 in public donations to the YouTuber. Hudon-Huneault has not released an estimate on PayPal donations he's received since Rossmann's endorsement began. Hudon-Huneault's Help Us Fight This Anti-Free Speech Retaliation Lawsuit campaign brought in another $199 to win Sunday's crowdsourcing title. The First Amendment Protection Agency took second place with a $25 donation to his Illegal Arrest Defense Fund. Sean Paul Long Island Audit Reyes placed third with a $10 donation to his Help Me Fight These Unlawful Charges and Injustice Fund. No other campaigns that we follow received donations for Sunday. Full disclosure, Attorney Newman took advantage of ReallyCoolNewswire's paid Vanity Channel program and briefly ran a personal area on our Discord server. That area was removed at his request and was not the source of the screenshots provided to Rossmann to use in his videos. Really Cool News owner-operator Jim Finch donated roughly $100 to Hudon-Huneault's YouTube channel via Super Chats between the years 2022 and 2023. Jose Chille DeCastro's week started exactly how last week ended, with a new filing in an old lawsuit that is teetering on the edge of existence, with a defense request asking for a dismissal because DeCastro failed to state a claim against them. This time it's the Lawrence County defendants in the revised, renewed Ironton-based lawsuit from events of nearly 4 years ago. DeCastro sued two sets of defendants, referred to as the Ironton defendants and the Lawrence County defendants. Messed around for around a year before the lawsuit was dismissed twice, revived once on a technicality, because DeCastro could never clearly state what the defendants did wrong. While he was appealing the second dismissal, he refiled the lawsuit in Nevada, on both a state level and a federal level. The state-level lawsuit went nowhere, but the federal lawsuit lingered for a long time, as DeCastro was incarcerated and unable to serve the defendants, then suffered a brain cloud, further delaying the process. Once the lawsuit was properly served, it lingered a bit as both sets of defendants argued that the lawsuit should have been dismissed, as DeCastro hadn't stated a claim, and the charges themselves were already decided in Ohio in the previous case. The Nevada federal judge transferred the lawsuit to Ohio, where the judge who had thrown the original case out is now assigned to the lawsuit. There are motions to dismiss outstanding, as DeCastro has yet again allegedly failed to state a claim. Monday saw the Lawrence County defendants respond to DeCastro's recently granted "Sir" reply to their motion to dismiss. Typically, a motion is filed, the opposing party gets to reply to it, then the party that filed the motion gets to reply to that reply. A "Sir" reply gives the replying party a second chance to reply, and typically the filing party gets a chance to reply to the "Sir" reply. Magistrate Judge Stephanie K. Bauman allowed the "Sir" reply, and the Lawrence County defendants have 5 days to reply to it. DeCastro argued that because the Lawrence County defendants, who he claims are different from the previous Lawrence County defendants because they consist of the same people, but he used a new description for them, have never had his charges against them substantially analyzed because they were dismissed from the previous lawsuit before judgment could be rendered. The Lawrence County defendants replied to the SIR reply by pointing out that they were dismissed from the original lawsuit because their motion to dismiss was granted, on the grounds that DeCastro never stated a proper claim for which relief can be granted against them, which is, according to the Lawrence County defendants, exactly what he is doing in the revived whatever my head hurts lawsuit. Pending another attempt at a SIR reply by DeCastro, the issue goes back to Magistrate Judge Stephanie K. Bowman for a recommendation to District Judge Michael R. Barrett. But wait, there's more! DeCastro also has until March 18th to show cause as to why the case against the Ironton defendants should not be dismissed for failure to state a claim. This was a previous order by Judge Bowman and gives the diminutive YouTuber until the middle of the month to either reply to their motion to dismiss or reply with a reason, any reason, why the lawsuit should not be tossed. We'll update as the pending headaches, or filings, make their way to Ohio. Jonathan Frauditor Troll, Hudon-Huneault, help us fight this anti-free speech retaliation lawsuit, won Monday with $8 in apparent exchange rate adjustments. The First Amendment Protection Agency placed second with a $5 donation to his illegal arrest defense fund. No other campaigns that we follow received donations for the day. Controversial candidate for government Jose Chille DeCastro said he wished death on United States President Donald Trump and the removal of anyone who is Jewish from the government on Tuesday during a live stream aired on his Delete Laws channel. DeCastro, who declared himself an independent and said he could be representing a third party at some time in his career, let his fans know that he was not a fan of the current president, and said that he wished death upon the president from a massive coronary each day in his prayers. The failed Power Ranger said that he hated the president, describing him as a person who has had unwanted or forcible sexual encounters with others, including children. He called out President Trump's association with Jeffrey Epstein as proof of his claims. Going further, DeCastro called for the death of United States Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick via hanging. He again accused Lutnick of things YouTube's terms of service wouldn't allow us to say, and justified the violence towards the Commerce Secretary based on Lutnick's inclusion in the Epstein files. Keeping with the theme, DeCastro said that all Jewish members of the United States government should be expelled for their ties with Israel. The diminutive YouTuber called out the current situation with the coordinated attacks by the United States and Israel on Iran illegal, as more proof that the Israeli government controls the United States. DeCastro would later clarify that United States Congressman Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie would be exempt from his purge of government, as both were honorable men in his eyes. Finally, DeCastro continued to expound on his negative views on women by adding scorn for any women who work in industries that put them in physical contact with men, specifically calling out a female police captain as undeserving of her job due to her inability to physically dominate males. Other than a few negative opinions in the stream's side chat, DeCastro's comments did not seem to faze his longtime fans in his side chat, with his vertical stream peaking in the 600 viewer range, who are now used to DeCastro's impotent rants about political figures. DeCastro recently embraced most of the theories expounded by the QAnon movement, declaring that the rich eat jerky made from human flesh and often eat human babies at social gatherings. The YouTuber is also currently running for government of an unknown state with no current campaigns in place to run as a candidate or to replace the government as a whole. He has previously announced sweeping changes he'd make as governor, most recently calling for an end to drunk driving checkpoints, underage drinking laws, and police chases as things he'd enact when he's in power. DeCastro has also claimed to be of Jewish descent on his father's side multiple times in the past, and has expressed love for his Jewish friends, noting that a number of his friends and financial backers are Jewish. Despite his bluster, DeCastro is unlikely to carry out any implied threats to the President, Congress, or the Commerce Secretary. While he's expressed violent tendencies and violent speech towards police, recently abandoning his pledge to stop calling officers piggies and other derogatory terminology again, he has stated that he was too old and decrepit to actually take part in any violence or government uprising. DeCastro also announced that he had recently damaged a ligament in his left thumb, making it impossible to work out or spar for the past few weeks. Strangely, he then announced that he would be going to work out after the live stream and would be seeing a doctor later in the week. Longtime viewers will note that problems with his left thumb seem to be a lingering injury, as DeCastro has previously blamed the problems on injuries sustained in both an arrest in Ironton, Ohio, and an arrest in Las Vegas, Nevada. He gave no cause of the injury on Tuesday's broadcast. The YouTuber has now closed his GoFundMe campaign devoted to his recently lost court battle with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Force. Jonathan Frauditor Troll Hudon-Huneault's Help Us Fight This Anti-Free Speech Retaliation lawsuit won Tuesday with $14 in new donations. Sean Paul Long Island Audit Reyes actually lost $10 to his Detained for My Rights Continuing the Fight for Our Rights fund to place second for the day. No other campaigns that we follow received donations for the day. After a week of non-judicial blow-ups in the ongoing dispute between Christopher, Denver Metro Audits, Cordova, and Jonathan Frauditor Troll Hudon-Huneault, the war turned back to the lawsuit between the men early in the week with new filings and a new ruling in the lawsuit. Cordova is currently suing Hudon-Huneault over the supposed misuse of his YouTube videos and violating 17 U.S. Code Section 1201 to circumvent YouTube's copy protection to download Cordova's materials for usage in his own videos. Hudon-Huneault claims that in a recently discovered live stream from years ago, Cordova gave him rights to perpetually use his material and swore he'd never sue him over usage of the material. Last week, in an apparent act of spontaneous discovery, consumer advocate Louis Rossmann discovered the lawsuit. A day after, Rossmann launched a campaign against Cordova's attorney, Randall S. the Unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, complete with a fully detailed bar complaint for his fans to download and file against Attorney Newman. Newman himself didn't do himself any favors with a highly criticized appearance on Christopher Direct D. Ruff's livestream. He later removed his The DMCA Attorney moniker from his YouTube channel. Financial contributions to Hudon-Huneault's GoFundMe campaign related to the lawsuit surged following direct links to the campaign provided by Rossmann. Hudon-Huneault's financial dominance continued Wednesday with $218 in new donations to his Help Us Fight This Anti-Free Speech Retaliation Lawsuit campaign. Sean Paul, Long Island Audit Reyes, placed second with $100 in new donations to his Support to Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign. Reyes's Detained for My Rights Continuing the Fight for Our Rights campaign tied for third place, with the First Amendment Protection Agency's Illegal Arrest Defense Fund, as both took in $50 in new donations. No other campaigns that we follow received donations for Wednesday. Turning back to the legal filings, the week started with an alternative dispute resolution joint statement provided by Attorney Newman and sensational Simon Lynn, representing Hudon-Huneault. In the ADR statement, the pair indicated that they could not come to an agreement on mediation. Newman stated that he would prefer to participate in the court's existing ADR program with mediation through the NDCA mediator panel. Lynn refused this process, indicating that Hudon-Huneault would be, quote, willing to participate in private ADR with a privately retained mediator with experience in U.S. and Canadian law and Internet issues that spans across national borders, unquote. The attorney then ignored Cordova's recent statements that he was living in poverty and that Attorney Newman was working on contingency. He stated, quote, plaintiff indicated that he lacks the resources to participate in private mediation. However, from the defendant's perspective, plaintiff appears to have nearly unlimited resources with numerous motions. A private mediator would ensure that both sides are fully engaged in the process. A mediator with experience on the Internet and cross-border issues will also ensure that both sides have a reality check, unquote. Magistrate Judge Virginia K. DeMarchi, who is overseeing the lawsuit, ruled on Tuesday that Magistrate Judge Susan Von Koolen would be handling a settlement conference on June 30th. Attorney Lynn also filed an objection to a recent reply by Newman in support of his motion to dismiss Hudon-Huneault's counterclaim. In the filing, Lynn claimed that Newman violated local rules by stating that YouTube provides no feature to allow users to download, copy, edit, and re-upload another creator's videos as new works. Lynn contended that he would, if given a chance to respond, refute this claim, since YouTube's premium service, quote, would have squarely rebutted the plaintiff's bald assertion, unquote. Finally, in a late evening file, Attorney Newman filed a motion to withdraw his motion for leave to amend the case management schedule and his motion for leave to file a second amended complaint. Newman stated, "At the time the motions were filed, the video frauditors ejected from federal courthouse knew, which plaintiff alleges infringes his work titled Federal Courthouse Fail, threatened with arrest for recording and not one officer identifies, remained publicly available on defendant's Frauditor Troll YouTube channel. Defendants have since removed the video after the filing of the above-referenced motions. As a result, plaintiff has determined that amendment of his pleadings is unnecessary at this time. Accordingly, plaintiff respectfully withdraws the above-referenced motions without prejudice and requests that the clerk terminate ECF numbers 66 and 78. This is an ongoing news story. The Las Vegas Metro Police Department gave YouTuber and candidate for government of an unspecified state Jose Chille DeCastro a surprise on Wednesday by filing a motion for attorney's fees and related non-taxable expenses in relation to his recent loss of a court case against them for a sum of $18,385.45. The YouTuber is also facing a separate bill for costs for $8,209.68 for other costs and services incurred during the lawsuit. DeCastro's lawsuit sprung from a March 2023 arrest in Las Vegas by members of the LVMPD. DeCastro claimed that his civil rights were violated and that he was physically assaulted by one of the officers and that he was subjected to excessive force by the police officers. DeCastro filed his suit in 2023, a little under a year before he went to jail in 2024 after being found guilty of charges of obstructing an officer and interfering in a crime scene. He served roughly 4 months of his 6-month sentence before being set free on appeal. He is separately suing the judge who convicted him, the judge who set him free, and nearly everyone who was involved in the criminal case. DeCastro v. the LVMPD went to trial in February, and the jury sided with the LVMPD. DeCastro says that he will appeal the decision to the Ninth Circuit. In Wednesday's filing, the LVMPD said that while the defendants believed all of DeCastro's claims were frivolous, 2 claims were egregious. They explained, quote, during discovery, DeCastro posted numerous videos slandering Sandoval and even filed a second amended complaint under the penalty of perjury, identifying Sandoval as the abuser. However, at trial, DeCastro admitted he lied in his SAC and his videos and now claimed Sandoval never punched him in the groin, but claimed Bork did. The jury found no one punched DeCastro. Second, DeCastro alleged Bork and defendant Torrey selectively enforced the law against him. Trial revealed DeCastro never had any supporting evidence. Because DeCastro knew these claims were false, yet he pursued them through the end, the defendants, pursuant to 42 U.S. Code Section 1988, LVMPD defendants are therefore entitled to reasonable attorney's fees attributable to defending against these frivolous claims, unquote. Later adding, quote, DeCastro's explanation he mistakenly named the wrong officer is not credible. The SAC's own language refutes this excuse. Paragraph 62 of the SAC specifically describes a scenario where DeCastro protested that he'd already been patted down by 2 officers before Sandoval allegedly spread his legs and struck him. This description demonstrates DeCastro was not describing Bork's initial pat-down. He was fabricating a separate incident involving Sandoval. DeCastro knew he had already been patted down by Bork and Dingle prior to interacting with Sandoval when he wrote this allegation, and he still specifically alleged Sandoval conducted another pat-down and struck him in the groin with a closed fist. That never happened. Moreover, DeCastro had full access to the body-worn camera footage at the time he filed the sack, and at the time he posted the YouTube video doubling down on his allegation that Sandoval gratuitously struck him in the genitals. The footage clearly shows who conducted the pat-down. A reasonable inquiry into the facts, or even a cursory review of the footage DeCastro himself was using to build his case, would have revealed Sandoval did not strike him in the groin during a pat-down. Unquote. According to the document, the requested amount is based on the two frivolous claims by DeCastro. Again, this is the defendant's motion for court costs, and it has not been approved by the judge as of press time. This is a developing news story. A correction, a previous version of this story incorrectly stated that the $18,385.45 was the only expenses DeCastro is facing from the trial. After a re-examination of the data, MERB's video on the subject, and much feedback, we have updated our figures. We apologize for the confusion. The ongoing war between Christopher Denver Metro Audits, Cordova, and Jonathan Frauditor Troll Hudon-Huneault went a bit sideways on Wednesday, when the supposed war brought in YouTuber MERB into the field of battle. Direct links to all videos described in this news report can be found by following the text link in the description of this video. Wednesday started innocently enough, with MERB releasing a video largely praising Hudon-Huneault for agreeing to mediation in the lawsuit, based on the previously ordered mediation in the lawsuit by Magistrate Judge Virginia K. DeMarchi. MERB said that he felt that the lawsuit was heading towards a settlement based on his past experiences as a perpetual first-year family lawyer. He said that the development was more than likely the work of Hudon-Huneault's attorney, Sensational Simon Lynn. He theorized that Lynn sat Hudon-Huneault down and gave him the reality of the lawsuit, and that if he lost, the public would know about the loss and exactly how much he'd have to pay Cordova. MERB added that as a business decision, it would be better to attempt to negotiate and make the lawsuit go away. MERB chastised Hudon-Huneault's previous statements that he would fight to the very end and appeal the case, as copyright had been litigated to death, and implied that there would be a single outcome to the lawsuit. Continuing with his opinion, he said that the mediation process did not guarantee a settlement, but the stipulation to meet was agreed to by both sides. Hudon-Huneault immediately replied in the comments area of the video, stating, "First-year family lawyer is spreading misinformation. This settlement conference is mediation that has been ordered by the court, and it is not optional. Stop spreading misinformation." And, "This is your worst video yet. You are wrong on pretty much everything. This will age like milk on the beach of a Polynesian islands." Hudon-Huneault's fans were less kind, following the lead of their hero by telling MERB that he was wrong in mostly negative comments, echoing Hudon-Huneault's posts, which led to a second video by MERB. MERB addressed Hudon-Huneault and his followers' comments that Hudon-Huneault did not agree to mediation by pointing out that he had to have agreed to mediation or a settlement conference, or else it couldn't have moved forward. The YouTuber explained that both sides in the lawsuit said that they'd agree to mediation even though they couldn't come to an agreement on the identity of that mediator. He admitted that technically the court ordered a settlement conference and not direct mediation, but the concepts were basically the same. He added that in this case, they are benefiting from the decision by Judge DeMarchi, as their mediation will be heard by a sitting magistrate judge with copyright experience, and that each side could keep their mediation briefs private without having to provide it to the other side. MERB explained that 80 to 90% of all lawsuits end in settlements, and called out Hudon-Huneault for making statements about the ongoing litigation. He also noted that the court would not have ordered mediation or a settlement conference if there was no chance to settle the case. Hudon-Huneault responded to MERB's original video with a long look at recent filings in the case. He was overjoyed in the recent decision by Cordova's attorney that Randall S. the unhinged attorney Newman, Esquire, to withdraw his motion to file an amended complaint. He also pitched his GoFundMe campaign while stating that he had no intention to settle the lawsuit, though he threaded the needle by saying he had every intention to go into settlement talks with an open mind. Frauditor Troll raised $17 for the day in new donations to his Help Us Fight This Anti-Free Speech Retaliation Lawsuit, falling to the First Amendment Protection Agency's Illegal Arrest Defense Fund, which took in $30. No other campaigns that we follow brought in donations for the day. Hudon-Huneault's video brought another response from MERB, who started the video by stating that if he was wrong about something, he'd admit it. However, if he was right, he'd be like a dog on a bone. MERB showed the court listener link to the Cordova v. Huneault lawsuit and downloaded electronic filing number 85. He displayed the PDF of the filing on screen, which showed that both sides were willing to participate in mediation. He said that he hadn't watched Hudon-Huneault's video, then went over scenarios for what was going on with Hudon-Huneault's responses, with two of the opinions being that either Hudon-Huneault or Hudon-Huneault and his attorney were both lying about their intentions to take part in mediation with hopes to settle. MERB again stressed that it wasn't a wise idea to talk about ongoing lawsuits, and that it would be a mistake if Hudon-Huneault said his attorney was lying about their intentions to settle the lawsuit in a public video. If Attorney Lynn lied about his intentions and had no intention to settle, as Hudon-Huneault seemed to be claiming, he could face a bar complaint or sanctions. Hudon-Huneault replied to the video with a comment, "You still don't get it, but that's okay. By the way, you should watch my video that I made. I was very fair about you. I watch your videos and drop a like. Don't be a stranger." A fourth video was released by MERB Thursday morning. We were unable to properly view the video as of press time. This is an ongoing news story. Longtime First Amendment auditor and Tennessee native Jeremiah Last Days of Freedom Payne returned to YouTube with a new video on Friday. A new partnership and a new hometown, with the announcement that he made good on his recent threats and left Clarksville for Nashville. Payne had been at odds with police and child protective services in Clarksville over the past few years, following several reports to CPS about his insistence of having his young daughter accompany him and his wife as they protested police on the sidewalk outside of major shopping centers. Payne and his wife Samantha have decided to homeschool their daughter, with the protests presumably part of her social studies and civics classes. She has been present at several incidents where her family had been trespassed from public transportation, Walmart parking lots, and several Kroger grocery stores in the Clarksville area. The YouTuber blamed a growing conspiracy against him for his decision to leave Clarksville. He recently posted an account to his YouTube channel's community page detailing yet another negative interaction with the Clarksville police force. Once again, the Clarksville, Tennessee Police Department is completely bleeping useless. We were back up here getting the rest of our stuff, and I drove the van to Kroger's to get some drinks, and I says, me and my 8-year-old daughter are leaving Kroger's. A guy literally runs us off the road into the grass area. I blew my horn at him, and he proceeded to brake check me 3 times to the point I had to leave skid marks. I knew it was pointless. I called the police department. I gave him a description of his car tag number and the direction he was heading. Dispatch told me to pull over and speak to a cop. Exactly 1 minute later, a cop calls me, proceeds to tell me there is absolutely nothing he will do about it because he did not see it happen, but 90% of all arrests the cops make, they did not see happen. Remember, this is if you're ever caught stealing at a Walmart. Cop did not see it, and they cannot use video because I had cam of it, and he told me it didn't matter. He did not witness it with his own 2 eyes. So remember that if you're ever caught stealing at Walmart, they cannot arrest you. That's sarcasm. So if anyone wants to, feel free to redress their grievances of a shitty job, once again on behalf of the Clarksville, Tennessee Police Department. Then they proceeded to drive around where we were moving from about 15 times. They circled the apartment just staring at me, and what the point of these bleeping tyrant police is pieces of bleep that won't do anything because I hold them accountable. Next time I'll just call 911 and tell them to come pick up a body, where the next mother tries to kill my daughter and me just take my handled cousin until you want me to do, obviously. It is unclear what vehicle the YouTuber was driving in the incident, as both Payne and wife Samantha did not have valid driver's licenses or possessed a car at last check. Payne recently announced an auditing partnership with News Now Preston, who lives in the area, sealing a bond between the men that has blossomed over the past few years. Both Preston and Payne are seeking other auditors in the area to join them in organized meetup and planned audits. The sometime YouTuber also released a new video from a traffic stop in Nashville on Friday. Commenting on the traffic stop, Payne said, "Let this be a lesson to Clarksville, Tennessee cops, who every single time I recorded them enforced a 25-foot rule because they are so scared they're going to get hurt, yet they have guns, mace, and an actual bleeping army behind them that they're terrified of a camera because it might show them violating someone's rights. That is why I packed my family up and moved the hell out of Clarksville and back to a city where cops aren't little bleeps and actually let me walk right up to them." It is unclear when Payne came into possession of a computer, as by his own accounts he was offline since the fall of 2025 due to an incident where a Lyft driver drove off with his backpack after a confrontation with Payne. We will continue to monitor the YouTuber as he transitions from Clarksville to his new home in Nashville. Colorado-based YouTuber, sometime grandmother, and free-range activist for the homeless, Regan Benson had a long week as she disrupted the end of a public business owners meeting in Englewood, Colorado. Bad-mouthed police in Denver apparently dismissed her lawsuit against YouTuber Blackheart Knight and saw new developments in her lawsuit against Englewood. Benson's Helping Hands for Dignity coalition was suing Gurkha for misrepresentation and declaration of copyright infringement. The case was originally filed in California, but later transferred to Florida. Superstar Steve Vondran represented Gurkha, while that Randall S., the unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, represented Benson. The stipulation of dismissal was released on Tuesday. Quote, pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 41A1A2, this action shall be and hereby is dismissed with prejudice in its entirety. Each party shall bear its own attorney's fees and costs, except as otherwise expressly provided in the settlement agreement executed by the parties. The court shall retain jurisdiction to enforce the terms of the settlement agreement between the parties. This stipulation may be executed in counterparts and by electronic signature, each of which shall be deemed unoriginal. Unquote. Magistrate Judge Michael J. Frank officially dismissed the lawsuit on Wednesday, with no further details of the settlement released to the public. Thursday also saw action in Benson's ongoing litigation against the city of Englewood, Colorado. United States District Judge Regina M. Rodriguez accepted the recommendation of United States Magistrate Judge Catherine A. Starnella to uphold parts of and dismiss parts of the Englewood defendant's motion to dismiss Benson's first amended complaint. Judge Rodriguez essentially allowed all of the suggested findings by Judge Starnella, since neither side objected to the findings. Benson has stated that she was pleased with the preliminary findings of Judge Starnella, as the lawsuit survived the initial motion to dismiss. The YouTuber was less pleased with the city of Englewood on Tuesday when she attended a planning meeting set for business owners and property managers held at the Englewood Police Department. Benson said that she thought the meeting was open to the public, as her guise to attend the meeting, and remained largely silent as the meeting progressed. Towards the end of the meeting, when the subject of homelessness and property damage came up, Benson angrily stood and confronted the business owners and fire inspector Greg Tates. She ignored pushback from business owners in the room, with one directly asking her what her plan was to deal with the homeless, and another stating that Benson could house the homeless at her own lavish property in the Denver area. Benson would later reveal that she went to the meeting to confront the business owners over the treatment of a homeless woman who had been trespassed from a brewery's property in Englewood earlier that week. She noted to police, who may be watching her live stream, that she voluntarily left the meeting as it was concluding and had not been asked to leave by organizers. She would later conclude that Englewood police would issue a warrant for her arrest on charges related to the incident. Benson would go on to attend Denver District 3's monthly Community Advisory Board meeting on Wednesday, apparently warrant-free. She said that she was there to interact with the district attorney, who is prosecuting her for a situation in September of last year where she broadcast the home address of Denver District 3 Police Commander Joel Bell and told her fans to have a piggy roast at his home. Following the meeting, as she debriefed her side chat from her car, she said that she obviously was joking about the piggy roast and never intended to cause harm to the commander. She predicted that her motion to dismiss in the ongoing trial would be denied and that she would be convicted at trial at the end of this month. She said she planned to immediately announce the appeal of the sentence to avoid being taken into custody. This is an ongoing news story. In breaking news, the YouTuber known as the Angry Vet, Kevin Soper, was released from police custody on Thursday following a hearing to set up his appeal of his recent conviction of trespassing. Soper was sentenced to jail following a January conviction for trespassing at a Harford County deputy's house in August of 2025. From our previous coverage, according to Soper's reporting, he was traveling in Harford County, Maryland, when a police deputy's vehicle drove past him at a high rate of speed without his lights or sirens on. He followed the road and found the vehicle parked at a private residence. He went to the door and confronted the police officer about the incident, which he said resulted in a call to police by the officer after the officer went into tyrant mode and asked Soper to leave his property. As he was leaving, Soper was confronted by a second man who Soper mockingly said was the officer's lover. Soper and the man continued to scream at each other until police arrived. He later went to a local park where he live-streamed his version of the story and talked himself out of going to the police department to file a formal complaint against the officer. The day after the event, Soper live-streamed again and was paranoid about the possibility of the police having a warrant for his arrest. He later attempted to file a report against the officer at the Harford County Sheriff's Office. While he was at the office, he was told that the police force was divided into north and south zones, and that he was at the northern zone while the officer in question worked in the southern zone. While Soper was unable to file his police complaint at that time, he pledged to follow up on the police report, despite his growing paranoia that police were following him. Soper has since removed his live streams in relation to the incident from YouTube and has not mentioned it since the second video. Soper was sentenced to 90 days in jail and was held in the Cecil County Detention Center in Maryland after his late January conviction. He was freed on Thursday on his own recognizance and has a jury trial scheduled for April 6th in Cecil County. This is a breaking news story. Jose Chille DeCastro continued his political and emotional spiral on Friday when he announced that all of his future live streams would be devoted to removing Israeli Zionists from the government and media. DeCastro repeated his recent allegations that Israeli Zionists secretly control the United States government and media. He called out CBS and TMZ by name, crediting his nephew for pointing out that TMZ was owned by Jews, who were part of the conspiracy that secretly ran the United States. He also repeated claims that Israeli Prime Minister was behind September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks and the current conflict between Israel, the United States, and Iran. DeCastro asserted that he believed that the Jews were behind the oncoming civil war in America and gave the grave prediction that New York will fall, indicating that the conspiracy will pit Muslims versus Jews in the streets and force totalitarian control over the city to quell the violence. The YouTuber added his belief that the pandemic and Jeffrey Epstein were both distractions caused by those of Jewish descent. He then swore that Larry Ellison should not be allowed to control media, as his son's control of CBS and his recent pending acquisition of CNN would help maintain control of the United States. DeCastro repeated previous calls to action for all people of Jewish faith should be purged from government. Then repeated that he had 7 generations of the Jewish faith on his father's side of the family, but he was willing to speak out against the Zionists who controlled the media and the government. He pledged that all future broadcasts would be devoted to anti-Israeli themes, then complained as his live stream's viewership averaged under 200 people for the first time in quite some time. The YouTuber threatened that he should stream in horizontal format from this point forward, as it didn't matter anymore. DeCastro also shared that his pending release of his new version of his trifold was, again, delayed. He said that the trifold release would happen next week. The new version of the trifold is reportedly made from the same credit card material as his First Amendment cop card product. The diminutive YouTuber also announced that taking a case to court meant nothing, and it was better to fight it out on the side of the road, as courts tended to screw you. Frustrated by his low turnout, DeCastro ended the live stream early, pledging to come back later Friday night in horizontal format. DeCastro made no mention of the recent request by the Las Vegas Metro Police Department to bill him nearly $26,000 for court costs and fees after his recent loss of his lawsuit against him. He has also not reopened his GoFundMe, despite his urgent need for cash should the court award the fees to the defendants. Jonathan Frauditor Troll Hudon-Huneault won Friday with a $12 donation to his Help Us Fight This Anti-Free Speech Retaliation Lawsuit campaign. Hudon-Huneault's campaign took Saturday as well, with $53 in new donations. No other campaigns that we follow received new donations for either day. The Auditing Insanity podcast is funded in part by viewers just like you. If you enjoy our efforts and would like to see our podcast continue, please feel free to contribute via the GoFundMe or PayPal links in the description of this video. All funds go towards keeping the lights on, feeding ourselves and our animals, paying rent, and, of course, producing more podcasts. Our news stories are written by James Finch and are read by Pants, both humans. The art in our news stories is produced by James Finch using Real Illusion's iClone and character creator programs. Any animations accompanying the stories are produced in iClone. Our use of AI is limited to the occasional clip art provided by Adobe Express and helped with our descriptions as provided by the vidIQ service. The Auditing Insanity podcast is copyright 2026 James Finch, and we ask that you ask for permission before using our videos or audio footage.